these are the things I dream about. And when we dream about them, we're creating parallel realities. And there's splits in our reality right now. There's, of course, the dichotomy is becoming very split between people who are realizing that I can live totally within this unconditional divine love. And maybe we can't do it 100% of the time, but at least we're recognizing this is our avenue. This is where we're doing. And we spend our time in our meditation daydreaming and pretending and imaging and visualizing on this. And not be concerned with, oh, this should be happening faster. No, let go when you're doing this. Let go of that needs to be done now. There's plenty of time. We're in the eternal now.
Thank you. Welcome to Caritas Consciousness Project. I'm Gloria Coelho, and Caritas is dedicated to promoting the evolution of consciousness as the key to individual growth and global healing. And we draw from a wide assortment of ancient wisdom and leading-edge studies in science, consciousness, spirituality, healing, philosophy. And we do this by hosting online presentations featuring guest speakers and also offering classes and study groups. And all of this is on Zoom these days. You can view over 150 of our guest speaker video recordings on our YouTube channel, Caritas Consciousness Project. It's also easily accessible on our website, which is caritascenter.org. And on the website, you just go to the video library page and you can find the videos there too. And as a nonprofit organization, we rely on the support of our members and donors to keep Caritas going. So if you enjoy what you're seeing and hearing tonight and you want to support our program, you can make a donation on any page on our website or become a member with benefits. So let me introduce our guest speaker tonight. It's my great pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Jack Stucki, a pioneering innovator and researcher and teacher whose life work bridges the worlds of science, consciousness, and human potential. Jack's journey began with a deep curiosity about the nature of mind and energy, a curiosity that has led him to decades of exploration into the subtle realms where thought, intention, and measurable reality intersect. A recognized leader in the field of biofeedback and neurotechnology, Jack has spent over 40 years working at the forefront of human performance and consciousness research. He has collaborated with scientists, healers, educators, and visionaries around the globe, bringing together rigorous scientific methods and a profound respect for the unseen dimensions of life. His career includes groundbreaking work in psychophysiology, innovative instrumentation for measuring subtle energy, and training thousands of people to harness their own inner capacities for healing and transformation. Jack's topic today, the science and responsibility of thought forms, addresses a profound truth. Our thoughts are not fleeting, meaningless sparks. They're structured patterns of energy with real effects in the world. Through a lens both scientific and spiritual, Jack will guide us in understanding how thought forms are created, how they influence ourselves and others, and what ethical responsibilities we carry in generating them. This is a subject that challenges us to bring both mindfulness and mastery to the creative force of our minds. So in Jack, you will find the rare combination of scientific credibility, intuitive wisdom, and heartfelt compassion. His work reminds us that consciousness is not just something we possess, It's something we shape moment by moment with every thought we hold and every intention we set. So please help me welcome Jack Stucki as he takes us on a journey into the science, mystery, and deep responsibility of thought forms. Welcome, Jack. It's a great pleasure to have you here. Whoop, where's
It's
Jack?
such a
Oh,
pleasure to be here.
Good.
Okay, we need my PowerPoint up.
Okay, jump right in.
Do I need to do something?
You need to share your screen.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. The figure you're seeing is two tetrahedrons that surround our body. The male tetrahedron begins a hand length above our crown chakra and goes down to our shoulder level. And the female tetrahedron begins a hand length below our feet and intersects with the other tetrahedron, forming a six-pointed star. It's three-dimensional. When we create inner coherence, those tetrahedrons begin to spin. And they go from male geometry, which is the points, the angles, to the torus. The middle five chakras lose their front to back hookup, and the energy flows down through the body and up around. Several years ago, back in the 90s, a client of mine had a remarkable recovery from a life-ending health challenge that she was able to overcome. I was one of her providers, and she decided to spend the rest of her life donating her time to the promotion of what then was called alternative medicine. Wayne Jonas, MD, the former medical director of the major military hospital, founded the office, and she worked there. She called me one time, and she told me that there was a fellow in Michigan that had invented a device that was supposed to just balance thermal layers in a room. Every once in a while, the furniture company, which had Patrick build this device, we're getting anomalous pictures. So I called him, and he was a difficult person to converse with, and he was very domineering on his side of the conversation. But I felt like I needed to go out to see him. He lived near Grand Rapids, Michigan. I flew out to see him, and he picked me up at the airport, and he chain smoked, and it was winter, so the windows were cracked slightly, but I was still getting a lot of secondhand smoke, and the conversation was not enlightening, like talking to you folks. It was rather debilitating. So we got to his place, and he had a illuminator machine on, and he took a Polaroid picture of me, and the picture turned out I was really blurry. So I did a simple Qigong exercise like this to create inner coherence, and I photographed clear. And I thought, oh my gosh, is this a biofeedback device for consciousness? So I talked him into selling me one of the devices, and it was very expensive. And I got the device home, and at that time, I was very interested in studies that were being done about human beings being able to affect devices. and most of this work was coming from the Princeton Engineering Anomalous Research Lab. So I started in a relaxed state because I knew my thoughts would be more powerful to exercise intention into when I took a picture, and I would get a person's face, but I would get another face. So I called one of my mentors, Elmer Green, and uh, he answered the phone right away, and he said, well, that's interesting. He said, do you have Alice Allen Bailey's Esoteric Healing? And I said, yes. And he said, can you turn to page 387? So I turned to page 387, and here's what it says. In connection with your query about the photography which concerns itself with departed souls, I would advise you that understanding of process will come from a study of photographing of thought forms. Along the line of thought photography and electrical equipment will come the solution. It's the thought of those on the other side and their ability to project thought forms of themselves, plus providing adequately sensitive plates or their equivalent that will mark a new era in so-called spirit photography. And that's all I need of that. So I started photographing the thought forms that kind of stopped me in my tracks. I said, how can you photograph a thought form? They're really fast. And so I started really getting interested in the work that was being done by the Society for Scientific Exploration, the Princeton Engineering Anomalous Research Lab. During that time, the International Society for the Study of Subtle Energies and Energy Medicine was formed. And I started gathering information from them. Most of you are familiar with the work of Masaru Emoto and Veda Austin. Just briefly, they were able to show that thought can be imprinted into a water and into a petri dish with water, and that water frozen, and that thought can be um, frozen into the water. William Tiller, physicist from Stanford, and along with Walter Dibble, wrote an impressive study that entitled Development of Temperature and pH Oscillations in Water Containing ZnCO3 Crystallites Using Intention Imprinted Electronic Devices. This paper basically showed that 4 people who created inner coherence could imprint an intention into a device that contained vocal cut crystals, capacitors, and these things were all linked with 24 gauge wire. The studies were showing that if the intention was to, number one, raise or lower the pH of the water by 1 full pH unit, we would all at first acknowledge that we were working as one, and then someone would give it the signal to either raise or lower the pH of water, and we're all cognizant of what the pH of water is. Our pH is at 7.8%. To give you a perspective, if it was at 8.8% or 6.8%, we would be dead. So we would focus on raising, let's say raising in this instance, the pH of the water. And we'd focus on it just for several minutes. And then graduate student would come in and cover the device with aluminum foil, and it would be sent along with 4 devices also covered with aluminum foil and sent to the Princeton Engineering Anomalous Research Lab, where they were all connected to beakers of water and put in Faraday cages. The one that had been intention charged would raise that pH of that water. Now, the ZnCO3 crystallites that were put in the water, crystals could be grown out of that water, and those crystals would still hold the intention device. This study was also done with the ATP ratio of fruit fly larvae, and they found out they could shorten the time, lessen the time for the fruit fly larvae to develop. You can't go do research without fruit flies, so I thought I'd throw that in. The third thing they worked with was liver vial full of liver enzymes. They were able to affect a specific liver enzyme without affecting the other enzymes. John Wheeler, one of the greats in the area of physics, also a friend of Einstein, professor emeritus, he's now deceased, but worked with the astrology department, and in the 90s wrote a seminal paper called "Does the Universe Exist If We're Not Observing?" What he showed was that a black star, which is a star that's gone out maybe 500 million light years ago, and the light trajectory is traveling our way. What he showed, and the mathematicians can determine exactly, precisely where that trajectory will be, say, in 17 days, 2 minutes, and 3 seconds, until someone merely observes the light trajectory, and it changes. So something, I think, is probably traveling faster than the speed of light, and it's affecting changing the direction of something. Okay. Also, the Pear Labs did a number of studies showing a Qigong grandmaster affecting DNA from a couple thousand miles away in a petri dish in a Faraday cage. Brenda Dunn, Roger Nelson's, and Robert John's Global Consciousness Project, which you're all very familiar with. If you're not, I'll just briefly. Brenda Dunn, working on her doctorate in 1978, was able to make a software program that was just noise. It would spew out, say, the numbers 1 and 2. If you would stop this at any given time, there would be a law of averages, equal number of 1s and 2s. What she showed is that if a person creates inner coherence as best as they can and focuses on one of the numbers, a 1 or the 2, they can make it go out of randomness. If you try to force it, it didn't work. But if you let go and came from your heart, you had a greater chance of making it go out. Now, this project got to be quite popular amongst people that were studying transcendental meditation, Qigong, and other types of meditation, mindfulness. And so they expanded this from one little random noise generator to about 18. And people, they opened it up to the community, could come in and sign up and spend time. They accomplished 2 things. They were gathering an enormous amount of data, and also people were learning how to affect things by letting go. In our modern world, we think force works. It doesn't. So Roger Nelson was supposed to, he was a graduate student at the time, and all this information from these random event generators were going into a mainframe. And come Friday night, Roger Nelson was supposed to come in and shut them off and turn them back on Monday. Well, Monday morning he came in and he'd forgotten to shut them off. And he told Brenda Dunn, and Brenda said, "Well, I want you to go through all that data." He said, "That's a lot of data." He said, "Please go through all that data and report to me." Well, it seems that one time during that weekend, all the random event generators spiked at the same time, and that's impossible. And so Brenda went to the head of the department, Robert John, Jahn, and she said, all these spiked at the same time because there's a timer on each one. And he said, leave them on all the time, and we'll get graduate students to study this. Well, every once in a while, they would spike at the same time. So then Dr. John thought, and he said, well, let's look to see if there's anything major in the news going on. Well, the OJ verdict, Princess Diana, things like this, they were spiking. So they went to a large philanthropist, the Fetzer, John Fetzer at the Fetzer Institute. He owned hockey team in Detroit and our baseball team. And he set up a thing where they could put these pods, they called them, random event generators at very strategic places all over the planet. Okay, an interesting thing to note was that 21 days before 911, they started to spike. The largest spike they saw, and most of these spikes were happening before the news event happened. And so the largest spike they saw was 4 hours before 911. And so this project still continues. You can go to the Global Consciousness Project and you become a part of it. So anyway, this has so much data, thousands and thousands of data. Peter Tompkins and Marcel Vogel. Marcel works with me from the other side. I get a number of people that work from the other side, and it's really nice because they're very reasonably priced. And they put biofeedback type devices on plants and found that from several hundred miles or 1,000 miles away, plants could be affected by thought. And an example would be Marcel Vogel had a plant that he wasn't doing really well at home, and he decided that he would probably get rid of that plant when he got home. Well, the plant responded to that thought. Okay, we've known that thought now that scientifically something's happening. We're affecting the trajectory of light. We're affecting random event generators. We're able to detect affecting DNA in a petri dish. So along comes a wonderful physics student. He published his first physics paper at age 15 from the Soviet Union, Nikolai Kozyrev. He developed technology to actually detect thought as it's leaving us. And he found that thought leaves in a spin, and he called this torsion. Torsion means spin. Claude brought us his work, Claude Swanson, in 2011. And Kozyrev was thrown in jail for his work, but many of his papers got out, and Claude was able to secure the papers, and he brought torsion to the Subtle Energies Conference in 2011. Kozyrev found out that thoughts travel incredibly fast, several million times faster than the speed of light, meaning that they're not bound by linear time. They're in what theosophists call the eternal now. He found out that thoughts had more amplitude, more power when they came from his heart, and when he quieted himself. In other words, when he was thinking of his wife and daughters, his thoughts had more amplitude when he was thinking of his physics. There's a little typo here. Thoughts can speed up or slow down the passage of linear time. Not with the fact that they can thaw. So he'd put one timepiece in a Faraday cage, and another one was in front of him, and she found out that the timepiece in front of him would slow down or speed up depending on what his thought process was. This is monumental work because we've known that thought affects things and affects things from a distance, and can affect things from different perspectives. But now we have something that says it's traveling with a spin, and it's traveling incredibly fast. In 1922, John Clauser won the Nobel Prize in Physics, showing that mere observation of photons changes their position. A photon is a part of light. Another one of my mentors was Arthur Young. If you haven't heard of Arthur Young, Arthur invented the Bell helicopter, and using the principle of the torus, Arthur and Elmer Green knew each other as young lads. On Sundays, their parents would take them in Minneapolis to spend several hours with Manly Palmer Hall, a very knowledgeable individual on sacred geometry and sacred mathematics and physics. So Arthur used that principle of that torus to create the Bell helicopter. I love this, a little side story on Arthur Young. He was obviously a multimillionaire. Yeah, he loved Rolls Royces. So Arthur had a farm in Pennsylvania. He bought a Rolls Royce, brand new, um, limousine, and he had the back chopped off and made into a flatbed to haul hay out to his cattle in the field. Anyway, and Arthur would hold think tanks in his living room and it would invite people. I was blessed to be at one in 1995. The world was watching the Super Bowl, and I was sitting in Arthur Young's living room. And on the left of me was Jeffrey Mishloff from the program Thinking Aloud, Kenneth Pelletier, and Robert Temple was there, and plus others. There were 25 of us. During that presentation, Arthur mentioned that photons were the intelligent part of light. And that he said, Arthur said many things. He talked for 7 hours that day. He was 97 years old and passed soon after that. Charles, now we're going to get into the metaphysical, the spiritual concepts of thought forms, then we're going to bring them both together. Charles Fillmore founded the, trying to think of the name of the church. I can't think of it right now, but he stated the laws of mind are exact as the laws of mathematics. Annie Besant and C.W. Ledbetter in 1911, and the end of this little quote, I'll read it. Each man travels through space enclosed within a case of his own building, surrounded by a mass of the forms created by his habitual thoughts. Thus, until man learns complete control of thoughts and feelings, he sees nothing as it really is, since all his observations must be made through this medium, which distorts and colors everything, like badly made glass. So keep in mind, this is 1911. All the glass wasn't as consistent as it is now. So the theosophists, starting with Madame Helene Blavatsky, were very much into thought forms and self-regulation of thought forms. Jane Roberts from the Seth Materials. Your world is fortified in faithful replica of your own thoughts. If you sell yourself short, you will say, I am a physical organism and I live within the boundaries cast upon me by space and time. If you do not sell yourself short, you will say, I form my physical environment and I am free from space and time. There is no place within me that creativity does not exist. In your system of reality, you are learning that mental energy is, what mental energy is, and how to use it. You do this by constantly transforming your thoughts and emotions into physical form. You are supposed to get a clear picture of your inner development by perceiving the external environment. What seems to be a perception, an objective concrete event, is independent from you. It is instead the materialization of your own inner emotions, energy, and mental environment. Thoughts are propelled chemically. These mental enzymes are connected with the pineal gland and are released from the body through the skin and pore systems. Gloria mentioned that I was a pioneer in biofeedback, and I'm still involved in biofeedback a bit, mainly to monitor inner coherence with the people I am serving. But in biofeedback, we had a saying, once you know the way the machine works, you don't need the machine. So you're using a muscle tension device until you develop the proprioception to, so you don't need the sound or the visual representation of, say, your frontalis muscle. You can do it by feeling it. One of my sayings is to my folks is, probably the grandest biofeedback device out there is this thing we call reality and the way it unfolds. It's the reality, the way it unfolds, is a reflection of how well we're doing with our self-regulation of our thoughts and our moods, individually and collectively. Here's one of the illuminator devices that I was working on, and there are 3 barrels. There's a 6-inch barrel, and there's a 4-inch barrel inside of that, and there's a 2-inch barrel inside of that. Here it is standing upright. There's a focal crystal here inside the 2-inch barrel hanging at about the heart chakra level of the device. There's a fan down here and a fan up here. This fan is drawing in ambient air. This fan is expelling the air. This is just the bare bones. There's more added to this, tubes with fluids and different things to affect the air. It alters the spin of the electrons. The third dimension is the thickest dimension. So by altering the spin of the and organizing subtle light, and subtle light is we'll have different terms for today: plasma, orgone, and my favorite is adamantine particles. I have a film of the an old-time movie camera being aimed at a potted plant in a room where there's not enough light for the camera to work. So at the beginning, what you see is on this film is just some of you are old enough to remember when our televisions used to go off at night, you'd see like snowflakes. So this is what you see. About 20 seconds or a half a minute into the film, illuminator machine is turned on and it begins to organize that subtle light. And the picture begins to jump up and down, but it's still black and white. Slowly, the jumping up and down slows down, and some light begins to enter. At about 4 minutes, the light is organized, and the full plant stands still in full color. Okay, here's looking out the window behind me. You see a mountain, and we like to think this is the divine feminine, a lady's head and chest area. Here's a building, a temple from another dimension. The beings that communicate with me tend to reside here, and they appear to me as fractals. Here's an example of one way to use the illuminator machine. This young man, we'll call him Eric, has a lot of health challenges going on. He was referred to me, and so I meditated on him in our medicine wheel. I think I use a lot of intuitiveness in my work. The beings that work with me tell me that as we awaken as a culture, not evolve, you awaken, our sixth sense in intuition will become our first sense. And here's in the theophysical literature from the Mahatma letters to A.P. Senate, it was never the intention of occultists really to conceal what they had been writing from the earnest, determined student, but to rather lock up their information for safety's sake in a safe box, the key to which is intuition. Here's our medicine wheel. This sits in front of our cabin down a little ways. Here's north in the medicine wheel, the direction of the bison. To me, it's a direction also of interconnection. It is the 7th direction, 4 directions: north, south, east, west, up and down. And the last direction is going inside and acknowledging I'm interconnected with this physical brain and body. I am more than that, but I'm also connected with all that is. This concept of oneness. So I contemplated an Eric, and I got the hit to ask him to bring in a sample of dirt. So in that first picture, here's Eric holding a sample of dirt from where he lives. I told him to take a tablespoon and a baggie and some aluminum foil and go outside where he lives and take a spoonful of dirt, put it in the baggie, and cover it tightly with aluminum foil so the information didn't leak. Take a drink. My wife just told me to take a drink. Here he's holding dirt from the medicine wheel, and he photographs more clear. Our innate is releasing light through the body. Again, this light is the subtle light. It's the new area called plasma physics. or the organ. It's releasing light through the body all the time, either in a coherent manner or a non-coherent manner. Here's another way in which the illuminator machine can be used. We can get different faces. We can ask to see who is in your spirit family for the highest good and snap the Polaroid and get a picture like this. What we do then is we take this photograph into Photoshop and we desaturate the background and highlight the face. Here's one face, a man with a beard. Here's another face. And I want to, at this time, I talked about the beings that appear to me as fractals. And I'll talk more about that experience later. Here's various forms of fractals. This is actually a vegetable, and we have one in our refrigerator. It's a type of broccoli. And here's the famous one called the Mandelbrot set. Fractal geometry was discovered in the 70s by Benoit Mandelbrot. He was a child in Poland, and his father and mother, his uncles, many of his relatives were world famous physicians, mathematicians, I mean, and they published mathematical journals. And each time they published a journal, they would have a mathematical problem that was basically unsolvable. To their amazement, young Benoit was able to solve these in his head. And he didn't know how he would solve them, but he was solving them in his head using fractal geometry. The fractal geometry, the formula is very simple. Z plus Z equals C. So he went and became rather famous himself and actually found out the process involved. And fractal geometry are repeating patterns. And for instance, if you, this Mandelbrot said, if you took one point of this and magnified it many times, you would see this whole Mandelbrot set again. And if you went to one point of that, you'd see the whole thing again. And if you put it on automatic and kept magnifying it, you'd never get to the smallest particle. This is Sri Yantara, of course. One of the things Nikolai Kozyrev also discovered that the 90% of our DNA in the Western world we call junk DNA is not junk. Duh. And it's fractal in shape, which means it's infinite. It's made of repeating patterns. And it contains a lot of information. It has scalar antennae in it that are constantly receiving information both forward, backward in time, meaning also this part of our DNA is in the universal now. How do we access that information? We'll talk about it in a little bit. I want to get into our thoughts and the way we got there and how we need to expand our ability to study thoughts and our own consciousness. I read a paper back in the 70s. It was written by Elliot Goldwag, and it was the name of the book was called Inner Balance, but it was a collection of papers. In one of the papers, there were 4 universities and several hospitals throughout the country were studying what types of people get more health challenges than others, and what types of people, once they have a health challenge, tend to heal more rapidly. An interesting psychological study was on locus of control. People with internal locus of control tend to heal more fast, more rapidly, and they tend to get fewer health challenges than people with external locus of control. People with biofeedback encourages internal locus of control. Anything that we can monitor inside the brain and body, we can learn to facilitate and exercise control over. Now, physics is an attempt to explain this thing we call reality out here. In Newtonian physics, which we still suffer from, I shouldn't say that, but we do, there are 4 forces. There's the high nuclear force, which binds the heart of atoms. There's the low nuclear force, which allows transformation, decay, and renewal, and gravitational force, which holds planets and galaxies in structure. There's the magnetic force, which governs light, energy, and communication. In, in physics, a force is designed something that could change the position of something else. Now, wait a minute. We just discovered that John Clausen won a Nobel Prize in Physics in 2022 for discovering that mere observations of photons changes their positions. Now, I have another take on that too, and I'll get to that after a while, hopefully. I don't think he's causing the photons to shake. I think the photons actually have way superior intelligence, and they're acknowledging that he's observing and they're moving and dancing. So anyway, getting back to these four forces. Eventually, I think that physics has to morph into alchemy. And true alchemy means self-transformation with the desire to achieve spiritual results and more knowledge in acting on the laws governing time, matter, thought, divine will, and divine love. The objective is to balance and learn to use these precious elements inside each one in order to become magicians, aware creators of our spiritual path and our evolution. Divine love. And I want to make a distinction between what we use in Gloria. When we talked several weeks ago, we were talking about semantics. Again, the beings that work with me, we used to call them ascended masters. They don't like the word ascended masters anymore. We can call them awakened, but they do not like our language. They said, eventually, as our sixth sense awaken, we won't need our language. For right now, we're stuck with it, so we're going to use it as best as we can. Divine love, again, which is different than romantic love, is not an effect. It is the originating intelligence in all that manifests. Divine love is not a sentiment or an emotion. It is the substance of creation. Divine love is the generative blueprint, the unifying field, the primal intentionality that gives rise to the four forces. Divine love is not only the fifth force.
Uh-oh.
It is the metaforce. The four forces are the choral voices in the symphony of manifestation. Love is the composer, the silence between the notes, and the song itself. Now we're going to get into plasma physics. A recent discovery by a Polish scientist, Kordolinski, who, like Nikolai Kozyrev, was stripped of his title and his papers were burned, but he discovered two giant clouds at 60-degree angles to the moon. So we got the moon, and at 60-degree angles, these Kordolinski clouds. These clouds are not observable by modern day telescopes or technology. They exist. These clouds are made up of plasma. Plasma, Robert Temple calls the fourth state of matter, is a living, dynamic field of charged particles, a fluid matrix where electricity, magnetism, and subtle energies intermingle. Robert Temple's research delves deeply into the archetypical, practical mysteries of plasma, its forms, patterns, and the way it can carry information and light force. It carries this life force through torsion. Wilhelm Reich again used the word orgon instead of plasma. Yeshua uses the word adamantine particles. If you look up Brenda Malloy, Melloy, and there's a still photo behind me on our wall. She did a video of her fractal art, and I did the music with a titanium gong, and we call it adamantine particles, which means love in action. Now, torsion fields, as explored by Nikolai Kozyrev and others, speak to the subtle currents of space-time. to twisting, spiraling energies that underpin matter, mind, and spirit. These fields exist beyond electromagnetic phenomena, intention, and consciousness. Okay, we're going back to this model of locus of control, and we're going to examine more of ourselves specifically. Physics needs to morph, it needs to change. It is. Education. In our education, it's basically involves, we want each child to be the same, and because it's easier to instruct that way, and a variety of subjects. And so um, children are judged by being multitask. The better you can multitask, and the higher grade you receive. I was not a multitasker. I was put in the dumb class and flunked out of college 3 times. Education, we teach children to memorize things, to regurgitate that on an exam. As we awaken as a civilization, children will not only be taught how to use the brain, but how to use the heart. The heart at times has several thousand times more power than the brain. The heart is more than a muscle. It has ganglion. It has nerves that begin within the heart and go up into the brain. Children are now being taught, blindfolded, to recognize colors and to read coming from their heart. As we awaken again, we will be teaching children how to use the brain instead of our prison is we think we are our brain. We are much more than our brain. And our sacred heart exists behind the physical heart and slightly lower between the lower part of the heart and the spinal column. Our allopathic and psychology models are mainly external locus of control. And psychology, we enhance this external locus of control. Oh, you're this way and you have this diagnosis because of this and this and this in your external environment. Emotions, we're very external with our emotions, and this is a big one. As we accept the responsibility of reality, the way it is unfolding, and it has to do with our thoughts and our emotions, we begin to give less control over things that tend to make us feel anger and fear and these other lower vibrational emotions. I frequently get asked the question, is fear or anger the opposite of love? Yeshua says, there is no opposite of love. There is only love. We have invented these other emotions, and we need to heal and awaken from this. Brain amplitude. Okay, if you get a normal EEG done in an EEG lab, there are 4 levels of brain activity. Beta, which is 15 to 35 hertz. Alpha, which is 15 to 8, down to 8 hertz. Theta, which is 8 down to 3 hertz. And delta, which is 3 hertz down to about a half of a hertz. I donated a quantitative electroencephalogram to the local college here that went down to for about 0.001 hertz up to about 500 hertz. It's where the amplitude is. We're producing all these waves all the time, way above and beyond and below this. We use 1 state for wakefulness in the quote unquote civilized world. We use 3 for sleep. If you just came here from another planet, and which Gloria did, no, and you say why they're using the weakest part of their brain for everything. This part of the brain, beta, is, we call it the male part of their brain. It deals with linear thought, linear time, balancing the checkbook, speaking to people, and so on. We've put all our marbles into that. We use D3 for sleep. In meditation, one of the goals of meditation is to quiet the body and let the brainwave, the amplitude lower and down into alpha and theta. Instead of being asleep, we have an awareness. It's a different type of awareness. Have you ever seen somebody's body jerk as they're going to sleep? I'm going to give you an example. I'm a tennis player, and I blew the Davis Cup for the United States. I missed a forehand on the last point. I'm thinking about as I go to sleep. As I drop below 8 hertz, you see my body jerk. Instead of just thinking about that, I'm actually back there experiencing that. So again, our goal is to be able to go down to these states and be aware. How do we do this? We do this by telling the brain what we want it to do. I use the I am all the time as a mantra or a way of telling the brain I'm increasingly more aware in deeper states, and then I follow that with an image. There are several words that mean a similar sort of thing: visualization, imagery, and my favorite is pretend, because pretend is something that we can relate to at that child part of ourselves. I want to pretend that I'm in a deeper state. So I go back to a dream I just had that wasn't in my highest interest. One of my dreams was I was still in undergraduate school, and it's getting near the end of the semester. There's a class I signed up for that I forgot to attend. So what I can do in this pretend is pretend I didn't forget to sign that. I go to that class, and I'm doing really well in that class. And so through this mental faculty we have, when the brain receives something, like if you dream you're biting into a lemon, your body receives it. I will salivate. Your body receives it as reality, biochemically. Emotions are a biochemical extent of our brain, extension of our brain. I know I'm skipping back up to emotions, but I wanted to mention this Candace Pert's seminal book, The Molecules of Emotion. She talks about emotions are a biochemical extension of the brain. Say that we suffer from worrying. I was raised Missouri Synod Lutheran. No one can worry more than a Lutheran. And I guess there'll be some argument of that. But for instance, if my fear is not having enough money, I win the lottery. So that fear goes away. But then, since my body's addicted to the biochemical of fear, my brain's job then becomes to search for something else to supply that drug, something else to be worried about. So we need to work our way through this. So the only addiction we're addicted to is divine love. Okay, we've covered brain amplitude now. One of the things that happens that's a very important thing I forgot to mention, when we're aware in alpha and theta and even in delta, when we're aware, the brain produces harmonics and overtones way up in these other zones up above. That is direct access into the junk DNA. All information, a lot of ideas are there, both forward and backward in time. Spirituality in the Western world, there tends to be that we're our external, our spirituality is external. We think that God is a white bearded male who refers to be spoken to in English, lives up there. Here's the cartoon I threw in. He's got his finger on the smite button, whether he's going to smite this guy or not. Okay, this is my lab. Gloria, the first time we filmed up here, and here's my console. These are physiological, biophysiological monitoring devices here. We can hook up things to the brain and to the muscles and to the heart and to the skin temperature and to the monitor skin resistance and things like that. This is a music bed, and this appears in Claude's book, The Synchronized Universe. He tried out many different music beds and like this one. There's a tactile transducer which changes sound into pure vibration, one aimed at the atlas and one at the coccyx. I put electrodes on the frontalis, which is the forehead muscle, and take the electronics coming from there, and it goes into this machine. And we take the microvolts that are coming from the body and up them to volts, and then oscillate that to a musical tone, then I can feed that tone back into a channel called autopan, feed that back in our spine. There's a fluid called cerebral spinal fluid, and it flows at a rhythm. So I use sacred math to restore sacred rhythm back into the spine. Here are these Vogel crystals. By Vogel crystals, we mean Marcel started working. Marcel had no formal education. He worked as a young man for IBM, and he was the one that suggested they use crystals in computers because all crystals, like all forms of water, can receive, store, and transmit information. We are basically a crystal too. We can receive and store and transmit information. What he found was he would visit the Kabbalah by going down into deep states, going into his junk DNA, going to the Kabbalah, and discovering sacred mathematics and sacred geometry. If he cut the female end, the end of the crystal that's up here, the receiving end, at 51 degrees, 51 minutes, and 51 seconds, and the male end also it's a specific geometry, they would have way more power. And there was more. I don't want to get into that in this presentation on the way these crystals were precisely cut and the way they were harvested. The whole process had to be done with love. Okay, I'm going to show you now just some other ways in which I've used the Illuminator machine to capture thought forms and to help with health challenges. This lady is Anglo. She was a physician's wife. Her physician worked I had one of the earlier pain clinics in the country, and based on Norm Shealy's model. And she had pain in her scapular area all her life. And MRI showed nothing, X-ray showed nothing, CAT scans showed nothing, but she had the pain. And she had it from little on up. And which intuitively gave me, if she probably had this when she was a little girl, and of course, like all pain, it's worse under stress, it probably came from a previous life. So what I set the intention for with the Polaroid and the Illuminator machine is there a previous life associated with this health challenge. Now, perhaps you can see this. There's a Native American facing profile on her face. Well, I threw in this because I asked her if she believed in reincarnation, so I threw in this cartoon. Yeah, well, I didn't believe in reincarnation when I was your age either. Okay, so she said, well, I can accept it if you think that's part of it. And my reputation was good enough where people would respect my opinion on things. And I said, I think there's a previous life involved in your health challenge. And we took a picture and this showed up. So I put her in my music chair and tilted her back to a 51-degree angle and regressed her in the music chair. And she was able to go back to a time when she was a Native American and her tribe was being raided by another tribe. And she picked up her baby and was running away, and a piece of flint came loose from a tomahawk and hit and killed the baby right in her arms. In a state of horror, she took a spear in the back and was killed herself and took this horror into the next life. So you don't heal something like this, but you can put it in a different perspective. And so that's what we did, and her pain gradually subsided. Here's another picture of a previous life on a lady. Here's the nose, here's the mouth, and here's the chin. Looks very similar to this life. I'm going to desaturate the background so you can see it a little bit better. Previous lives, again in the Mahatma letters to AP Senate, getting back into the eternal now. Ideas larger, grander, more comprehensive, recognizing their universal reign of immutable law, unchanging and unchangeable, in regard to which there is only an eternal now, while to the uninitiated mortals time is past, present, future, as related to their finite existence on this material speck of dirt. So the Illuminator machine is working with torsion and it's working with plasma light. In other words, it's dealing in nonlinear time, in the eternal now. That's why we're able to organize this subtle light and get pictures of previous life. Okay, there's another previous life. and we're just desaturating the background and highlighting the face. So here's the two previous slides that we had to deal with, and we did deal with them. This one is kind of disturbing to some folks. This couple came in and they did not feel good to me. They had made an appointment, and there's something didn't feel right. So very unethically, I had the Polaroid in my hand. They wanted Polaroid pictures, and I asked the question, for the highest good, can you show me who you really are? This is a reptilian extraterrestrial. Here's the mouth, and here's the two eyes. It's kind of difficult to see, but it's superimposed through his face. Again, the background is desaturated, so it's a little easier to see. Here is a zeta reticulum, a gray, and it's sitting on this lady's shoulder with its hand on her head. I'll enlarge the picture here. Here's the zeta reticulum, the gray, the eyes, the hand on top of this lady's head. Here's a lady, she's a nurse, and her husband was a carpenter. A month after they both retired, her husband and two sons were killed in a car wreck, and she wasn't letting them go. Here's the original picture. Here's the husband, and here's one son, here's the other son. We're going to desaturate the background, highlight the face. There's the husband. There's one son. There's the other son. He has a handlebar mustache. So we called in Archangel Michael and asked for them to be taken into the light, and they were. This is from Elmer Green's, his last book was called The Ozaki Book of the Dead. Alzheimer's isn't what you think it is. And he talks about each item of subconscious debris has a secret life of its own, like a little rechargeable battery. And this relates to when we went back to the page on a locus of control, and we're talking about emotions. Every time we succumb, so I win the lottery, and my brain's job becomes to find another thing to worry about. Every time I succumb to this subconscious debris, I give it more life as a rechargeable battery. I need to deal with these things, and as we deal with them, they lose their charge and they cease coming up. This is a rather famous one. This is a heart transplant recipient. This one is in Claude Swanson's book, The Synchronized Universe. This is a heart transplant recipient. That's the donor on her face. She was sent to me because she couldn't handle the anti-rejection medicine. She was going to die. And so my intuitive, I said, is there anything in her field that can assist us with this health challenge? And I was able to use in the 90s when I first presented to the subtle ICEM. Someone asked me at this conference if I knew Mark Macy. I had not heard of Mark Macy. Mark Macy was the head of an international organization called ITC, Interdimensional Transcommunication. They were getting audio information from the other side. So someone at that conference in 97 was kind enough to introduce us, and we joined forces. And so we were getting the able to get visual and auditory information from the other side. A milestone there was at that same conference, Willis Harman, a physicist who helped Edgar Mitchell found the Institute of Noetic Science, was very interested in Mark's work, and then later on my own work. And he said, I'm going to pass in 3 months. And he said, I will communicate with you. We were able to get a photograph and an auditory bite from Willis after he passed. So anyway, what I used here to get auditory information from the donor, I used a shortwave radio. I turned it to a foreign station. This happened to be Japanese, where we're getting a lady was reading, I take it was the news. My Japanese isn't what it used to be. Anyway, and you turn it off the station slightly so they're static. In the same way they can bleed in or slide into a picture like this, he was able to change that Japanese voice into English, and basically he said she needs to heal the thought form on why she needed my heart, or she will take this into the next life where it is more disguised and difficult to deal with. My gut feeling was she needed the heart from her previous life, so I took another picture. I don't have that on here. And there was a previous life involved. She was tortured and her family was tortured in front of her, and she was killed in that previous life, and her heart was broken. So again, you don't heal that, but what you get in a different perspective, she understands where this health challenge came from. So I put her in the music chair. I asked for the highest good. Could my voice be used to spiritually integrate the heart into her body? And in this music chair, which I'll show you later, there are tactile transducers that actually change my voice into pure vibration. And so I get out of the way and let different beings use my voice. And some of you have experienced this in my lab. And she's now 25 years not needing the anti-rejection medicine. That's a little better picture of it. Oh, incidentally, funny, she was a teetotaler and played viola in the Colorado Springs Symphony. And after her heart transplant, she craved Harley Davidsons and beer. Okay, John Mack taught, a tenured psychologist, psychiatrist, taught psychiatry at Harvard University, and he was very interested in abductions. His Pulitzer Prize winning book was called Abductions. Um, and he was very interested in and the possibility that this is from his book Passport to the Cosmos, the possibility that beings, spirits, or anything at all could cross over from the unseen or other world into our mental reality seems to be regarded as a regular occurrence in many, if most, indigenous cultures. But in our Western society, the possibility of traffic between the domains of spirit and matter is looked upon as doubtful, if not altogether possible. Hopefully, we're helping that with devices like the Illuminator machine. This is Celia Coates, who is in attendance tonight, and I know she's shuddering because she doesn't like me using this slide, but it's so profound. We were preparing for a Council Grove conference that we were co-chairing, and we're asking who's working with us from the other side. John Mack spoke. Celia was the program chairman for the 2005 Subtle Energies Conference, and John Mack was supposed to speak at this conference. Unfortunately, he was hit and killed in visiting his son at Oxford, England. And we asked who, for the highest good, could we see who's working with us from the other side? And here's John Mack. We think it's John Mack. Here's Celia's baseline picture. And here's a picture of John Mack from his book Abductions. This lady is holding a bottle in her hand. She's holding a bottle of Protrac. It's an herbal antidepressant. And her doctor, during her annual physical, her doctor prescribed Prozac. And she looked it up in the PDR and decided, boy, the side effects look deadly. I suggested she go to the herb shop, and she got this Protrac. She photographs fairly clear here. Here she's holding the Prozac in her hands, and this colored lady, black lady, shows up. I'll saturate the background so you can see it. Now, usually when someone's holding a substance, it's like either they photograph clear or cloudy. This one, she's not only blurry, but this black lady shows up. So at that time, I had a reading done by Harvey Grady, who was a very, very prominent psych channel in Sedona. He was former director of the ARE clinic, Edgar Casey Clinic in Tucson. But here's what Harvey had to say, channeling monitor. In the case of the image where the woman appears with the dark skin, the presence of a member of that person's spiritual family is noted. The person with the dark skin is present in the astral plane and maintains close supportive contact with the person while she has contact with this medication. This lady was probably the toughest case I've ever been involved with. I worked with her for 7 years. This is a baseline picture of her. She was involved in a chemical spill at Coors. Two fellows died trying to rescue her. She was cleaning out a giant beer vat, and her chemical suit was not, protective suit was not fastened tightly, and she started passing out. And so she radioed that she was passing out. So a fellow came down without a suit to pick her up, and he started taking her up the ladder, and he passed out, died. Another fellow came down with a suit that wasn't properly fastened either, and he um, um, got her out of there, but he ended up passing out and also succumbing. He died. Here they both show up in her picture. This guy's got a handlebar mustache. This guy's a. So what I had asked was, is there anything in her field that needs to be removed that's not in her highest interest? So these two fields will be called in Archangel Michael and asked for them to be taken into the light. I asked if there was a previous life that I had to be concerned with. This picture looks like she could star in the Addams Family, but we dealt with this previous life. Here she is 7 years later when she was on 3 pages of medications. She had seizures all the time. She had hepatitis. She had migraine headaches and the type of headache that lasts only a half hour, cluster headaches. And cluster headaches are really, really bad. And plus other health challenges. She was legally blind, and I was going through her seizures all the time. I was going through her medications, and I found out 2 medications that were contraindicating against other. She was seeing several different doctors who now, at all times, were not communicating with each other in Denver. And so gradually, she started getting better, and we started eliminating medications under the care of a physician. And after she was off all her medications, her vision came back. And during this time, Mr. Coors called me and said, if you want to work with her every day for the rest of her life, she is loved dearly at our plant, and I would pay for it personally. We didn't need that, but she's off all her medications, and she's able to see and live independently. My wife just told me to take a drink again. These little lights, she took this picture of me after I took the picture of her. I've got long hair there. But these are some of the beings that work with me, appearing as small fractals plasma. I know this is a conference called the Council Grove Conference, and I have a twang in my heart going on right now. This was in 2002, and Wanda Blumenthal, who is present tonight, and her husband, now deceased, Herb, and Maury Pressman were the co-chairs. The reason I showed this, and thank you, Wanda, for sending me this photograph. The conference theme that year was Walking the Divine Path, and it was just a profound conference. And I want to show you this picture because there's nothing in here. We're going to look at a picture where I took with the illuminator, and this is really unusual. This speaker is Ted Williams. Now, they asked me at the conference to take 3 illuminator photos of him while he was speaking. Ted was a medicine man, and he was the founder of the first Eagle Condor Conference, which was a mending of the spiritual war between the medicine individuals of North America and the shaman, these medicine people of South America. They had a spiritual war going for hundreds of years. Well, I took 3 illuminators of Ted, and they all turned out to be normal pictures. This is not normal. So Ted passed in 2005, and I got out his photographs, and I was amazed to see these other faces up here. So I called Elmer, and Elmer said, well, you hadn't scanned the pictures. And quite a few people at the conference, Wanda, I don't know if, and Celia, I don't know if you saw the original photos. There was nothing on them. They're actually clear, plain, ordinary Polaroid pictures. So Elmer said, "You didn't scan these pictures." And I said, "Well, no, I didn't scan them. There's no reason to scan them. There was nothing on them." Well, he said, "Well, if you'd have scanned them, they'd still be the same." And so we're gonna enlarge these just so you can see some more of the faces on them. They're strange faces. Here's another face. And he gave me an analogy, and he said, "Do you remember that study that was done? There were 5 of the best remote viewers. Joe McMoneagle, who spoke at one of our and one of the finest remote viewers ever. Ingo Swann, he was the one that we studied to find out how he was using his brain to be able to teach others to do remote viewing. Skip Atwater, and I don't remember who the other 2 were, but they made a short reel-to-reel tape. This is way back when we used reel-to-reel recording. 5 cassette dubs were made of the original recording. Now, on this recording were several physics equations. 1 cassette dub was made of the original. All 5s were made of the original. 1 cassette dub was put in a Faraday cage. So they went back in time. When I say they went back in time, that's not time travel in itself is an anomaly, because when you're dealing with that level of physics and torsion, you're dealing with the eternal now. So it's a dimensional shift. They did the dimensional shift where they originally made the reel-to-reel reel-to-reel tape, and changed a couple of the equations. The 4 cassettes that hadn't been listened to had to change. The one in the Faraday cage didn't have to change. Okay, I shared with you the beings that communicate with me appear as fractals. Here's one of the fractal beings that allowed to me. This is Dejual Cool. And Claude, in his last book, The Science of the Afterlife, made sense of how seeing fractal beings, how that, since they're infinite, that could be our infinite form. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. That's kind of a blown up repeating patterns. This is where I a lot of times I go out on this rock and do my chi clearing and bring in new chi. This is where I saw the original fractal being. And after I had that experience, I felt totally engulfed in divine love. I was felt out of body on my way back to our cabin. We live in a very rugged country. And I sat down and I wrote a new version of the Great Invocation. This being encouraged me to use the word love instead of God. And I wrote this invocation, and Celia Coates, who's in attendance tonight, again, published that. Brad Steiger had a near-death experience, and this is from a book he wrote about it, Real Ghosts, Restless Spirits. Whenever the sorrow of early separation impinged upon my newly extended consciousness, I was shown something that I am only described as a series of brilliant geometric designs. It was as if these colorful patterns were somehow a part of the great tapestry of life. My ability to perceive these figures illustrated the order and rightness of existence. Viewing these geometric designs completely removed my fear of death and allowed my spirit essence to move closer to the light. At the same time, the light appeared to be intelligent and to manifest a kind of benevolent presence that brought me immense peace and tranquility. So for many years after my near-death experience, I assumed that my viewing of the geometric designs had to be classified as an ineffable experience, impossible to translate into physical expression. From time to time, I would meet other individuals who'd had near-death experiences and had seen geometric visions similar to mine. And they would I agreed that these awesome messages from all that is are beyond words. In 1988, my wife Sherry began conducting healing seminars utilizing computer-derived images of fractal geometry. And in these sessions, I finally saw images that were as close approximations of what I had been shown during my near-death experience. These things really helped to validate my experience that I've had with fractals. I'm going to close with two other stories here. This little girl, preschool, and her brother, they're twins, I had worked with her mother 15 years ago using more traditional biofeedback so she could cure her migraine headaches, learning how to vasodilate and warm her hands and her fingertips and toe tips and release muscle tension from her her neck muscles and muscles that hold the jaw. So she called me and said, I don't know if you can help me. My son and daughter were, they were being babysitted by my brother-in-law while my husband and I worked, and my brother-in-law was molesting them during the day. Their behavior started changing, and traditional therapy doesn't work with them because they're really nonverbal. The little girl let me take her picture, and it's distorted. The little boy was on the floor sucking his thumb with his blanket, and he wouldn't let me take. So what I did, I put her in the music chair. Here's the music chair. And again, she's back at a 51-degree angle, and there are transducers in the chair. That's me with a microphone, so they can feel my voice. I asked for the highest good. Can sounds come through me that will reach and heal in the frontal lobes where this trauma is stored? Well, I started doing these sounds, and they were playful and very just very playful and comforting to the girl. And the little boy could sense something was going on, so he came over, and there was enough room for both of them in the chair, and they have earphones on, so they're audibly hearing my toning, but they're also feeling it. Again, I'm asking for the highest good. Can I come up with sounds to heal in the frontal lobes where this trauma is being stored? Here they are at the end of the session, and they both seemed very fine. And after follow-up of a year or two, they were fine. Now, I love this story. This little boy has got a really bad headache. He gets migraine headaches at night. He's afraid to sleep in his room. And there's an anomaly on his face. I didn't saturate it or find out what it was. I just put him in the music chair and used my voice to relax the muscles in his cranial muscles and to get vasodilation, warmth going. In other words, switch him into the parasympathetic mode of his nervous system, and the headache aborted. And so we were buddies after that. He felt really good. So at the beginning, I asked the mother to bring in dirt from where they lived, and she photographed really blurry. I don't have her picture included in this slideshow, but she photographed really blurry, so I knew something was wrong with the place. The problem with the health challenge the boy was having, he was afraid to sleep in his room, and because ghosts would come in his room. So they took him to a very prominent, compassionate psychiatrist in Colorado Springs, and he said, well, son, you're having nightmares. And he said, no, sir, I see ghosts. Very important Western psychiatry not to sit your client because you got all these diplomas and things on the wall that says, I know these things. So anyway, he gave him some medications. He said, you are having nightmares. And the medications made him worse. And so after we got rid of the headache, I asked the mom, I'd like to do a remote viewing of your home tonight. And I saw the same thing. She gave me permission, gave me the coordinates. And so I remote viewed, and I saw the same thing he saw. I saw ghosts coming into his room. The next morning, I called her and I told her that I wanted her to get a history of their neighborhood way beyond when we had constructed things in here. She found out the land was built over an old place where we had slaughtered a small tribe of 18 that we had slaughtered of Native Americans and just mass buried them. The ghosts were stuck. So I had her see, and the whole family, the dad and the mom and the boy, watched two movies: Indigo Children, which is the story of the little boy who was able to help his psychiatrist realize that he had passed away. And then I had them see Indigo Children, which is a movie about children with special gifts. This child obviously had a special gift. So I told him about his special gift, and I told him that you can help these ghosts. And he said, they're coming to see you because they know you can help them. And you could see his attitude change. Almost you could see a light bulb above his head. And so I instructed him what to do, call in Archangel Michael, and he was able to help those ghosts. And in a short, here he is at the end holding dirt from where he lives, and he's photographing clear. Here's our heart. It's a fractal heart. A healthy heart is a fractal heart. So I told you about the Joshua Kuhl, who appeared to me as a fractal, gave me a new form of it's called the Great Invocation, which he had given to Alice Bailey in esoteric healing. And it sort of went, the original was from the point of light within the mind of God. He said, use the word love, and he made some other changes. It was a great validation to me. In Glenda Green's book, which has had a wonderful impact on me, it's called Love Without End, Jesus Speaks. I turned a page, and Yeshua had given her a new version of the 23rd Psalm, and that went, love is my shepherd, I shall not want. Love maketh me lie down in green pastures. Love restoreth my soul, and so on. I'm going to get one little sip of water here. So this goes from the point of light within the mind of love. May all awaken to that same light within our own mind, to restore this light upon the earth. From the point of light within the heart of love, may all awaken to that same light within our own heart. May all who volunteered for this time awaken. From the center where the will of love is known, may all awaken to serve the purpose of this will, the purpose which the awakened know and serve. From the center where the race of humans is known, let the plan of love and light work out. To engage and dance with the darkness, let the power and purpose of love and light guide our awakening to oneness. Thank you all so very much. Now, if
Jack, I love how you eliminated the line, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Because
yes,
whenever I say that prayer, I always eliminate that line, and you changed it to engage and dance with the
with the
darkness.
darkness,
I love
yes.
that.
And this another line was this line, may all who volunteered for this used to may Christ return to earth, and he meant what he said was originally meant was Christ consciousness. He said to
Yes.
change that to may all who volunteered for this time. That involves all y'all out there, and so and again, the validation from the 23rd, the change of the 23rd Psalm, love is my shepherd, I shall not want.
Gosh, I have a lot of questions. Jack, you said that thoughts affect linear time. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Ever see that guy that weaves in and out of traffic, and he's trying to really speed up, and you're just staying in your same lane, and you end up there at the same time. That's probably not really an analogy, but anyway, what Kozarev did was he took two timepieces, put one in a Faraday cage, and kept walking in the room. What he did was sped up his own metabolism, and kind of like what I'm doing right now, and notice that linear time would increase. When he let go and relaxed, he could slow down linear time. Ever see that sign, the herder I go, the behinder I get? Kind of like that. That's about
Okay,
as close as I can come, Gloria, to explaining that.
okay, okay. I see that Alma has her hand up. So Alma, just I don't know where you are, but if you just there we go. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Good to be here. I was very pleased and excited to sign on for tonight and listen to this program. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much. Um, I believe every word. Um, my concern, and I don't know where the concern comes from, it must be from past lives. I am concerned about our children and the education of our children, and how I wish they would know more about this subject matter of, I'll call it a fourth dimension. Um, I'm 67, and I've had near death, which was just phenomenal. Um, but after I came out of that, I became a master copyist. Now I go into the Art Institute of Chicago, well, not since COVID, but I could just set up my easel with permission and just copy a master. I could never do that before. And some of the paintings, they change. I mean, they look like what they look like, but one morning I can wake up and instead of the cloud, there's sunshine in the painting. And I just go with it. I just know that something is happening and it's not from this plane. And so I would love to that I'm an early childhood educator. So when I hear the young children say things that no one wants to believe, but I do believe, why do I know why we stop it? Because people are afraid. Society is afraid. But what can we do? Is there anything that we can do to help perpetuate a future with more of this subject matter?
Yes, what we can do is pretend, and we can visualize, and it is unfolding. Children are being taught to see with their hearts. They're being taught to read with their hearts, being blindfolded. Um, so it's happening. We think, should this happen faster? Well, if we can put ourselves in the eternal now, it's happening in due time. Um, if you get a chance to see one of Robert Temple's interviews at the end of one where he's just presenting at a conference, he's very scientifically, he's very, very scientific and very bibliographical. He supports everything he says about the plasma physics and these Kordelinsky clouds. But at the end, sort of under his breath, he says, maybe it is all about love. Maybe we keep coming back to improve ourselves. And I think those are the two most important things that he said, because at more than one level, as this gets out, that physics needs to be looked at as we morph physics into alchemy and accept that there is a force beyond what we call the four forces, and it is divine love. We will morph. It'll happen. We need to visualize it. What I picture in my brain is classrooms where in indigenous cultures, for example, there's an elder who's gifted at recognizing the individual talents of each children. Instead of perhaps if there had been one in my kindergarten class, he would have sought me out and says, "You're not a multitasker. You're here to help people. You're a healer." And he would have guided me along those reins. And still, I had to go through years of torture, of flunking, and being told I was dumb. And so, these are the things I dream about. And when we dream about them, we're creating parallel realities. And there's splits in our reality right now. There's, of course, the dichotomy is becoming very split between people who are realizing that I can live totally within this unconditional divine love. And maybe we can't do it 100% of the time, but at least we're recognizing this is our avenue. This is where we're doing. And we spend our time in our meditation daydreaming and pretending and imaging and visualizing on this. And not be concerned with, oh, this should be happening faster. No, let go when you're doing this. Let go of that needs to be done now. There's plenty of time. We're in the eternal now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay, Barb McCombs has her hand up.
Hi, Jack. This is Barb. I'm in Windsor. Lucy's friend. I think you remember me.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I decided to sign in, and I have two questions. Number one, for Alma, have you discovered the telepathy tapes on YouTube,
No,
which talk about the loving connections caretakers have with their autistic children? There's a whole bunch of information on those children and their caretakers having telepathy connections, teachers that have a connection with telepathy. And it's a very, very interesting series on YouTube. If you just look up telepathy tapes, and there's the starting ones, and then there's the ones that are discussion afterwards. So look those up on YouTube.
thank
Also,
you.
Jack, I just wondered, I've been experiencing some neuropathy, and I just wondered if there's, I need to travel down there maybe to see you, to see if there's anything you can do. But it wouldn't be easy because it's a couple 100 miles or whatever. Uh, so anyhow, that's an aside. Just wanted to find out if if there's any chance of taking away this challenge that I've got.
I'm not sure, but if you get a chance to come down here, I'd love to see you. And I want to mention, if they're not going to say anything, I see an attendant, Richard and Laura Legion. Richard just finished a fine book. Richard had a profound near-death experience, and his entitled the book. It's not out yet, but I got a chance to be one of the previewers. It's called First Breath. What's it called, Richard? One Breath. Yes, One Breath. Okay. Anyway, when that book comes out, be sure to read it, because Richard had a profound experience with divine love, and he's written a wonderful book about it. The book is just riveting. Okay, next.
Mike? Mike, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Jack?
There we go.
I
Yeah.
can hear you, Mike.
Hey, Jack.
Yes, sir.
You are brilliant, man. You are brilliant. Wow. What are the possibilities that I could use my mind to create a physical manifestation of something where I physically feel the manifestation, not just something where I can energetically, but physically touch it, see it, and what would it take to do that?
Lots of work. Who is that? Sai Baba was able to manifest things. And one of the interesting thing in Robert Temple's book, he points out an experiment that was done with plasma with adamantine particles on the space station. They used torsion, thought, and were able to make something out of nothing. And here's my joke. My wife tells me I've been making something out of nothing for 50 years now. My wife is sitting back here to help me with Brent and telling me when to take a sip of water. We've been married for 63 years.
Yeah.
So anyway, and Mike, we can talk more about that when you're going to be out here next month. But Sai Baba, I'm probably, is that the right one, Gloria? He was able to manifest things.
Yes, vibhuti in his hand, in the palm of his hand, and he would give it to his students or
Yes,
his
yes.
devotees.
Yeah, so it is possible. I don't think you would have the time and energy to put into that, because it would remote viewing. You have to keep up your chops. That's a musical expression. You have to practice. You have to keep doing it. It's something that you create inner coherence, and then you use your will. But it's a combination to manifest things of using the adamantine particles and divine will. Um, um, that's kind of out of my pay grade, my specs, but I definitely it could be done, Mike.
I
Thanks
only
for
asked
asking.
that question because it feels like almost that I may have created a manifestation of the experience I'm having that you're aware of.
Aha.
Like I can physically feel things and hands. It feels like it would have to be coming out of a portal through my lower back and touching my hands and different things like that. And so it's like it's quite different. I felt entities before in the house, but not quite like this, where I even feel it running around inside of my body and stuff. And I feel it coming out and the hands touching me physically, not energetically. So that's why I asked that.
Yeah, I think inadvertently or advertently, we can manifest entities.
Okay, so I may have manifested.
Yes, and that's part of the thought forms. That's one of the ways that thought forms manifest is if we're, well, you tell them, Jack, how entities we can manifest entities by
Yes, that
focusing.
reptilian that was on that individual's face is an example of that. And Mike, we'll talk more about
Okay.
that when you come out here. Mike, you're in Detroit, aren't you?
Yes.
It's good to have you. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you.
I have a question. With you were talking about reincarnation and how some of these faces that manifest with the illuminator are previous lives, but how can you tell whether it's a previous life or whether it's a spirit? A different entity that isn't necessarily related to.
That's a really good question. And that's it. I asked ChatGPT for a criticism of my work. And one of the criticisms is just what you're saying. Are the photos exact what I'm saying they are? I trust that they are because I go into my heart, I create inner coherence, and I say, for the highest good, is there a previous life involved in this health challenges? And then I click the Polaroid. And the thing is that it's worked out in sessions. It's worked out. If there's not a previous life, I'll get a plain ordinary picture. And I've had examples where I thought possibly there was a previous life and there wasn't.
Okay, and do you think that all of these are previous lives? Because I remember a picture, and I can even share it, of in my Mark Macy's book, where he's photographing a woman who was a very close friend of John Denver.
Yeah.
After John Denver died, and he has this picture. I'll show it to you. Okay, so
yes, I took that picture.
Oh, you took it. Okay,
yes.
And this woman was a friend of John Denver, and you can clearly see John's face there. So that wouldn't be a previous life. That would be a spirit, a friend.
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that that not every face that can show up, but of course, if that's what you're asking, then maybe you can trust that.
In private sessions, I specifically ask Mark and I, when we would do presentations to large audiences. I remember one time I was presenting in Silver Springs, Maryland, for Celia Coates' groups. group, and a couple, and I wasn't even asking for anything. I was just taking pictures, and things would show up.
Mhm.
Some things showed up. They were rather scary, and I didn't have time for the person to process this information. So I stopped doing that because it just wasn't fair to the person I was taking pictures of.
Right.
And so we stopped taking pictures. I stopped taking the illuminator machine with me to larger presentations. Plus, Polaroid went out of business, and the film is very expensive now.
Ah, I see. Okay. Anybody else have a question? All right, here's another question. Oh, I have so many. We can create thought forms unconsciously, right? So do the thought forms behave differently when created consciously versus unconsciously?
Repeat that.
Do thought forms behave differently when created consciously versus unconsciously?
I think so. Remember that one quote from Jane Roberts, when we dwell upon a thought form, it tends to manifest more likely. One fleeting thoughts I don't think manifest because we all have fleeting thoughts, and they come in. Some of them can be subconscious if they're reoccurring from subconscious, like in a dream, a thought form like in a reoccurring dream, which I had a couple. One of them was the one about the being in college. Um, um, Elmer Green called these dark brothers, dark thoughts. And I was working really well and handling them during the day when they would come in. And like the rechargeable battery quote, as I would zap those unwanted thoughts more and more, they began occurring less regularly. So Elmer said, you're handling these during the day really well. Now you need to do this during sleep. So I started going after reoccurring dreams that I had that were not in my highest interest. And I was able to become lucid in them and change them. My favorite use is humor. I love humor. And so I would change, inject humor into those and then those dreams slowly dissipate. I wasn't recharging them anymore.
I would love to explore that with you sometime. I do dream work.
I know you're fantastic.
So what is the responsibility, the title of your talk, the science and responsibility of thought form? So elaborate on that, please.
Self-regulation. And there we have thoughts. Do we engage in them or do we observe them? And I encourage people to become observer of their thoughts. And observing are they in my highest interest? Are they not in my highest interest? Are they in the highest interest of the people I'm observing? Are they in the highest interest of this planet, of the human consciousness? If they're not, I want to self-regulate those. If they are in the highest, I don't want to add into the fear field that's on this planet. Thoughts not only escape us in torsion and spin, they form fields. Rupert Sheldrake calls them morphic fields, and there are morphic fields. One of the things, and please join into me, every morning I awaken at 2 o'clock. Don't join me. There are other times you can do this, but I find the wee hours, there's less radio frequency in the air. So every morning I awaken at that time, I ask to be guided into morphic fields in the Gaza Strip, in this, that I can help to dissipate these morphic fields and flood them with divine love. And so this is one thing that we can do. But getting back to your question, it's self-regulation. And the first step of self-regulation is being able to become the observer of my thoughts.
Yes.
I am not this brain. I am not this body. I am much more. I'm here having a physical experience. We were created out of divine love in a very unique way. so that we would have a unique experience, but still be able to experience oneness.
Right. And, the Course in Miracles says that there are no neutral thoughts. And that is something important to remember, that every thought is either love-based or fear-based. And, when we have a thought that doesn't feel good, doesn't make us feel good, we can ask ourselves, what is the fear? Right? Any negative thought is fear-based.
I'm sorry to jump in, but I can't find the raise hand.
Oh, okay.
I'm Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Jack.
Hi, Nancy. There you are.
Yes. My question is, well, so to let others know, I have a form of macular degeneration, and I worked with Jack last year, and I've been really working with my thought forms and shifting and doing all kinds of things, working with a pendulum. And I'm just asking for tonight if you have any thoughts. I bought Jack's adamantine particle video and watched it for a while. I've gotten away from that, and I'm wondering if I should just start watching that again with blue light glasses to protect, but I can get discouraged and I can get into fear. And so I'm really working on not doing that. But if you have any insights for the moment, I would love to hear it.
Whoa, yeah. I think you're going in the right direction. One of the things that Nancy experienced was after a session being able to see and having vision. A couple days ago, world famous physician Carl Merritt, medical director of the Dove Health Alliance, was visiting here, and I believe you know him also, Nancy. And anyway, you don't. Okay. He said, I asked him what he thought, why you were able to see. He said you were seeing etherically. Yeshua has told me that you can develop a new way to see, and we can see from the heart. And I specifically how to do that, I don't know, but I'm practicing that myself. And but I'm trying to come more and more from my heart and seeing from my heart. But there is another way to see. There is a divine way to see. And so I haven't worked with that a lot, but I'm going to, and I'm going to continue that. And I hope you do, and I hope you share with me.
I will. I am.
Okay.
I did manifest a treatment for macular. They're called exosomes. They're the 2.0 of stem cells. I've seen a little bit of improvement. So my belief is that I can manifest something external to help me. I haven't quite gotten to I can do it myself, but I know it can be done.
Yeah, you experienced it.
I did. I did. And I experienced it also one day after doing a pendulum spin with a friend. The next day, I could see my face in the mirror in the morning. And so it lasted one day. So yes, it's just a big mystery to me.
It is.
Yeah. But thank you. It's really good to see you and be with you. And thank you so much for this evening.
Love you.
Love you too. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? We have just a couple more minutes. We started a little after the half hour. Oh, Barb McComb.
Yes, sorry, Jack. I interjected that information about autism and the tapes. I just wondered if you'd ever work with anyone who was autistic.
Yes. And it was videotaped. I used sound. This girl was severely autistic, and she was 14 years old, and she was large and very strong. She broke a nurse's aide's, took her arm and broke it over her lap. But she was very combative and didn't want anybody in personal space. So she was at a very special place called Shadoni in Colorado Springs. And I would go up there on Tuesday. So they asked me to work with her. And so I had this room, all the furniture taken out except for a lot of padded pillows in it. So I went in there with my 12-string guitar, and first thing on the video, and the staff played this over, is I'm looking at the guitar, and she came over, stick me square where it hurts, and the staff would play this, of course, over and over again and laugh. But anyway, after that, every movement she'd make, and her moves were really jerky, and I would accompany with my guitar. And so she couldn't do anything rhythmically that I wasn't in tune with my guitar. And then she'd scream with her voice, and I changed that scream into singing with my voice. I could determine which key she was screaming in. So we did that for about 10 minutes, and I stopped and put my hand down to take a break. She came over and put my hand back on the guitar. And we continued. And on Tuesdays, when I come up, she'd be waiting for me at their front picture window, and she'd be jumping up and down and flapping her wrists. What is
She was
that
nonverbal.
goal? The goal was just to be in here and now and present with her, but she never really got any better, except I was one that she made contact with, and after that, she was less combative to other people.
Yep, that's love in action, isn't it, Jack?
Yeah, it really is. That's beautiful. Thank you for asking that question, Barb. Well, much as I hate to stop, it's time. So, Jack, I hope you'll come back sometime soon, talk a little bit more about whatever. I have, you wouldn't believe the list of questions that I didn't get to tonight. But
I want to say one thing, Richard and Laura, I wanted to call you. I don't have your phone number, so you could please call me or get a hold of me. Okay, great.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you all for attending, and thank you, Jack. Thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you again.
Yeah, thank
I'll
you.
be thinking of you.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.